Let's talk about this latest World Health Organization gearing up for its next pandemic. And it already has basically its next virus all ready to go. Like we were wondering, they've been warning us, by the way, that this is about to happen. They've been telling us, like, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when this is going to happen. And by the way, they were gaming out COVID months ahead of time. Right, we were learning about their sort of game theory and everything that they were rolling out and testing months ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Fauci even told us, of course, that it's going to happen under Trump's calendar.
Yeah.
And it absolutely did. So here's the next one that they're already gaming out in Africa.
Okay, so it is called Marburg virus. The World Health Organization already has a vaccine team in place. In fact, we know when they started if we read their documents, which we did today, and we're going to show it to you. So yesterday, on Tuesday, Valentine's Day, the World Health Organization convened an emergency meeting to discuss an outbreak of Marburg virus in Central Africa. Marburg, essentially, I just want to make this clear, is a town in Germany where the virus was first discovered in 1967. It is presumably not there now, but maybe we'll see this called out as a racist virus name because it's linked to a place that has happened before.
That's good. They're going to change the name because it's not as sexy. It needs to be able to, like monkeypox. It needs to be something that we put on television and that they try to scare us all into going and getting a vaccine for.
Right. Well, they wanted us to stop associating COVID with China. Because they thought that was a racist thing to do. So Marburg is associated with Germany where there is not an outbreak. So I'm just predicting right now that could cause a problem because we've been through it.
I'm going to guess gorilla flu. Just because it affects mostly primates.
It does, in fact. Yes.
Although we're on kind of a tear with picking on Germany lately. We just blew up their pipeline. So, we just blew up the pipeline to, bringing natural gas to Germany and throwing that country into chaos. So why don't we call it the Heidelberg virus?
Yes. In fact, Marburg is associated with monkeys and gorillas and bats as well. So we can choose species. Bats are not a primate.
No, not that I know of.
Right, Philip?
They're a mammal.
They're definitely not a primate.
They're not a primate. They're not a member of the monkey family.
Unless it's like one of those, like a duck-billed platypus is not a duck. It's like, is that a trick question? No. Okay. So we all learned that together. Bats are not a primate. Okay. So the World Health Organization says that at least 9 people have died from the virus that is now spreading through Equatorial Guinea with a confirmed 16 cases. Now, they're saying that based on past outbreaks, they have a fatality rate of 88%. But this one, I can do the math also, 9 out of 16 cases, if 56% fatality rate, not great.
No, Virginia says in our chat, says it's very, very dangerous. Very, very nasty.
Yes.
Virginia Vikings. It's very, very nasty. This Marburg thing. Yeah.
So it's a hemorrhagic fever. So it's pretty nasty. I've seen estimates as high as 90% fatality rate.
Wow. And that's a point too with COVID, right? With COVID, it wasn't as nasty, right? It was not as bad as they wanted it to be.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny. Like we sat down and watched that movie, during lockdowns, and we're like, oh, well, if, the pandemic looked like this, where everyone was throwing up, we might...
Throwing up blood.
Yeah, we might feel a little bit different. But,
now we got it.
But yeah, so that's what we got. So absolutely, we should not be downplaying this, like, oh, they're going to make us think that this is scary. This is scary enough on its own. So we're just going to talk about what the World Health Organization is doing and not act like they are faking us out, right? Because it's scary. We don't want anybody to get it. We also don't want anybody to exploit it. We don't want either of those things. The World Health Organization says that they convened an urgent meeting of the Marburg Virus Vaccine Consortium, which is called MARVAC, to discuss the outbreak. This is their update on Tuesday's meeting. Well, what's MARVAC? What is that, and when did it become a thing? Turns out it became a thing in October. Here is the paper. I'm just going to show you the title page. An introduction to MARVAC, to the Marburg Virus Vaccine Consortium. It is dated, if you zoom in there, October 13th, 2022. So relatively new, this MARVAC vaccine program for Marburg virus.
It's so convenient how they managed to get these things just a few months ahead of time, isn't it?
Right. And so who is involved in MARVAC? Well, let's zoom in there. On the title page, next one, Okay, Institute for Virology from the National Institute of Health, Fauci related, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, U.S. COVID response at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, all other kinds of, health departments and colleges and other states, science labs. Also, Boston University School of Medicine, where they did gain-of-function research on COVID.
Yeah.
And the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So a lot of the same players that were controlling the COVID pandemic already are involved in Marvac. So
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm surprised at the bottom it doesn't say, and Bill Gates.
Right.
Well, they don't have to because, as we know, and we've talked about on this show, the World Health Organization is mostly funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So at the heart of the World Health Organization is Bill Gates. Mm-hmm. He has his hands in all of this. And each of those institutions we just talked about are also funded. Boston University, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Each of these are funded by him. Right. So we don't need to put his name there. Yep. He does it through, surreptitious ways.
Okay, so what is Marburg virus? How would we recognize it if we saw it? It is in the same family as Ebola virus. It's said to cause a viral hemorrhagic fever, which can lead to bleeding from the nose and mouth. Symptoms can include lethargy, dehydration, nausea, vomiting, sore throat, and abdominal pain. And where does it come from? Well, according to this statement from the WHO, it is transmitted to humans by fruit bats and spread through direct contact with bodily fluids of infected people, surfaces, and materials. But if you read the Marburg paper, it also does mention primates as well. So I don't know why there's bats and primates, why it seems to be in multiple species. But that
I know yesterday I neglected to explain something that I knew, but I'll go ahead and throw this one in there.
Okay.
Bats are oftentimes what they call reservoir species, which means they carry, but they don't contract the virus.
Oh.
So bats are actually a fairly common reservoir species for viruses. So but when they're talking about the difference, the bats can carry it, but they don't get it. But Marburg is a filovirus, which basically affects primates. So primates are the ones that get infected. Bats can just carry it around.
A reservoir creature.
Maybe.
And they call it
just eradicate all bats.
Species.
Okay, so I'm just thinking this out in real time because the statement on the emergency Marvac meeting today only mentioned bats as
right. So it doesn't sound like it's very transmissible.
Is this another thing that they're trying to sort of wash out anything that could sound woke, like to say primates maybe can be called racist in a way? I mean, because the Marvac paper says that it is transmissible mostly through the outbreaks have been observed in non-human primates. That was the original outbreaks. So I'm just wondering because the statement today did not mention primates at all.
Well, and also it's not very transmissible from what I'm gathering, right? That they're scaring us. They're having this emergency meeting. They're talking about, they're all wearing masks. They're talking about the transmissibility of this. But if it's just through bats, through primates, through surfaces and materials,
but
what
you
does that mean?
contract it from infected individuals. So obviously you want to isolate people who have it and not have a spread in the community.
Of course, and this is exactly what they want, right? This is what they've been prepping for. They want us to stay. Remember, at the heart of all of this, guys, this is written down, and what they're telling us is that they want us to work from home, get rid of our cars. Europe just this week announced that by 2035, they're getting rid of combustible automobiles, right? That's their plan by 2035.
Yeah.
They want us to work from home. They want 15-minute cities. They don't want us driving, and they want this. They want us to stay in these environments like this.
Well, you're making large leaps about something that people actually have. Like, there are 16 cases. We absolutely should all not want there to be more. And yes, the World Health Organization does make big power grabs, but I think in the context of discussing this, we can't look at this data and say, well, they're saying it's deadly, but maybe it's not. They just want to scare us. Like, that's irresponsible of us to be saying.
But be very, I'm just saying, we got to walk into this cautiously. 3 years ago, we know what they did to us, right? So all I'm saying is watch this very closely. And if they start to move towards, here we go with lockdowns again, here we go with keeping our kids home from school again, And
well, sure, there could be a narrative like that virus wasn't scary enough, so let's make them start bleeding from their noses, then they'll stay home. I get that. But in the context of this,